Hey friend, welcome back to Bible Tract Echoes. I'm Micah McCurry, your host. Thank you so very much for joining me once again today. I've got a special treat for you. I'm going to be sharing with you an interview that I recently did with Mrs. Garris, the wife of Dr. Ron Garris, the late Dr. Ron Garris, who is now in that great cloud of witnesses. The Garrises were like another set of grandparents to my wife and her sisters, and they have been very highly impactful, not just in my wife and her sisters, but in my in-laws as well, and in the ministry of the Midwest Christian Boys Football Camp, a ministry that has impacted my life. And I'd like you to listen, because we take very seriously having gratitude for those that came before. If you don't know Dr. Garris, you're going to want to meet him through his dear wife today. Listen in. I have the privilege to be sitting with Miss Judy Garris, and I'm so thankful for the time you've taken to be with me today, and I'm thankful for your willingness to talk about your late husband, Dr. Ron Garris. Thanks for being with me, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I realize, even thinking about us talking, that I know you through other people, and I personally realize that we've seen each other at holidays here and there. I've been in the Woodward family. Now, you've been, if you will, adopted into the Woodward family, or you adopted them, one way or the other, for years and years now. But I've only been a part of the family for 10, 11, 12 years, including courting and all that stuff. So for folks that may not be familiar with you and your late husband, you just give like a brief introduction. How would you describe you and your husband?
We met in high school and dated all through high school. That was back in the 50s. So there was, and we were lost. We were not saved. We were raised in religious families, but it was works, religion. Dated all through high school. The year I graduated, he graduated a year ahead of me, but and worked. And the year I graduated, we got engaged, and he joined the Navy. And that had planned to be his career. After we were married, the first place that we lived together was in Jacksonville, Florida. He was stationed there for an aviation electronics school. And we rented a second-floor apartment across the base from an elderly invalid lady that was a Christian. She witnessed to us as soon as we got there, and she witnessed to us every day. And of course, with her being an invalid, she had a little coal stove, and Ron would take her ashes out, and I would do grocery shopping. From there, he was sent overseas on the Ranger, the USS Ranger, and I went back home. When the Ranger came back to shore, I went to California, and that's where our son was born, and he re-enlisted and was sent back to Jacksonville for the advanced electronics school. The first thing we did was take our son to meet Granny. We called her Granny. And when we walked in, she said, I have prayed for you every day since you left here. And that had been like 2 or 3 years. She said, we have a new pastor at our church. Will you please go? Ron promised her we would. And we began to visit and would be under conviction. And when, of course, at that time he smoked, and we knew that they didn't smoke, so he'd leave his cigarettes in the car and he'd come out. He'd be so frustrated when we got back in the car that he'd step all over them and crush them. But eventually we did ask the Lord to save us. The pastor they had at the time started like a little preacher boys class, and the Lord again began to deal with Ron about preaching, and it was just so exciting. The thing that when I knew that the Lord had called him to preach, the only thing I asked was, whatever we do or wherever we go, we do it together as a family. With the military, he would be gone anywhere from 3 to 9 months at a time, and I just wanted us to be able to do things together. The pastor that won us to the Lord left and went to the mission field, and they called, the young man that they'd called was pastoring a church only about maybe 20 miles west of Jacksonville. And he used my husband and another Marine that was called to preach to fill in the church he had left until they could call a pastor. And during that time, the church put a call forth to Ron and asked would he consider being the pastor. We still had about 5 months in his enlistment, so we would just drive back and forth on the weekends. And we prayed about it, and the Lord led about it was his will to take the church. Our son at the time was 4 years old, and it was discovered that he had to have eye surgery. The military would do it, but Ron had to re-enlist because after the surgery, it would take at least another year of constant care. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't do the surgery and not do the follow-up care. So that was our first big challenge, I guess. We knew what the Lord wanted him to do, but where are we going to get the money for this eye surgery? We prayed about it and started to look in the phone book for the type of surgeon that would have been needed. There was one with a name that we could pronounce. Most of them were from, foreign countries. Mm-hmm. So we made an appointment with this one and went to see him. And when he found out, we asked, how much would the cost be and everything. And when he found out that he was a new pastor, he said, there'll be no charge for my service. He did the surgery. The only thing we had to come up with was the money for the hospital bill. And he did almost 2 years' worth of follow-up work, plus the surgery for free. And it was a great encouragement to us to see how the Lord, when you obey the Lord, how he has a plan. You may not see it at the time, but he has a plan, and he worked it all out and just took care of every need.
Now, can we go back to Granny for just a moment? Now, how long was Granny a part of your lives? Did she hear that you had accepted Christ? Was she still alive that long?
Yes,
okay.
She was. I corresponded with her some by mail.
Sure.
When I first, went back home and while Ron was aboard ship. But then, young people, you get busy in your life, and I just kind of got away from doing that. But we knew that when we went back, we just wanted to see her because she was Absolutely. Just such a sweet, precious lady. And she did know that we got saved and lived. She passed away before she knew that he was called to preach. Okay. But she did know we were saved.
Something tells me she's in the cloud of witnesses, and I think
Yes.
she probably knows now. But that's wonderful. Now, would you say that circumstance with your son and the surgery, was that one of the first times that you, if I can put it this way, saw God work?
Yes.
Now, so your husband launches out into pastoring. What was it like? Well, let's back up a little bit. What was he like before he got saved, and how God used the man that he was and the way he was, and I'm sure molded and maybe knocked off some rough edges and all those things, but how did that translate to the man he was after he was saved?
Growing up in high school, he grew up without a father. His father never was sent overseas in World War II and never came home. So it was just he and his mother. And he was basically, as far as a father figure, he worked for a veterinarian in our town. And he was basically the only father figure he had, which was drinking man about town.
Sure.
With the military, he was just, whatever he did with all his heart.
Right.
And he put his whole heart into the serving in the military, being a good sailor, good man at his work. The thing between the military and after we got saved, the thing that created such a desire for soul winning in his heart was the fact he used to say, I can fix an airplane, but something's gonna break and go wrong again. When you see someone get saved, the Lord fixes the heart, and it's good forever. And that kind of took his heart from the aviation part that he really loved.
Right.
He loved his work, but to see the Lord do something and it be eternal and permanent just built a fire in his heart. And the Navy just kept fading away, and the Lord kept growing.
How long did the Lord have you there pastoring outside of Jacksonville?
10 years.
10 years.
And that's where the Lord opened the door for the prison ministry.
Oh, really?
We had 3 major prisons within 30 minutes from the church. And there was an opportunity came that he was able to visit and get to know the chaplain at Florida State Prison, where they have the death chamber, and then there were 2 other prisons there too. And he and the men began to go and hold chapel services on Friday nights, and they grew and expanded, and we began taking our choir. And just as the Lord gave him a burden for souls from the Navy, the Lord just began to give him a burden for the inmate.
What a blessing to be introduced to the Ron Garris that so many knew. He was a powerful preacher, a tender man of God. You're going to want to listen in all this week as we meet one of the founders of the Rock of Ages prison ministry. We want to give honor to whom honor is due. Listen in throughout the remainder of this week to Bible Tract Echoes. Have a great day for His glory, and God bless.
Thank you for joining us today for Bible Tract Echoes, a ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. If you would like to receive a free sample booklet of all of our tracts, you can contact us by calling 309-828-6888. That's 309-828-6888. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 130, Dwight, Illinois 60420. A faster way to contact us is to go to our website at BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org. There you will find more information about our ministry and details on how you can support Bible Tracts Incorporated. Thanks for listening, and may the Lord richly bless you as you serve Him.